Many times the question is asked, do I need a buyer's agent or do I need a seller's agent? And if I'm looking to buy and sell, which one do I need or do I need both? So that's a common question that's asked in the world of real estate. And this morning we're going to hit upon that topic, exactly that. Do I need a buyer's agent? Do I need a seller's agent? And what does that look like for my specific situation? Welcome to Breakfast with Bev this morning. I'm Bev Curtis here at Bev & Co. with House of Brokers.
And good morning, I'm Dan Fowler. I'm the buyer's agent for Bev & Co.
So sorry we're kind of separated here a little bit, but we're trying to observe the COVID rules as far as social distancing this morning. So Dan and I are going to go back and forth a little bit on who does what when it comes to a transaction. So the way our team is currently set up is our Bev & Co team. We have specific job roles, and that's actually intentional. It's by design, because in order to represent our clients in the best light for what their specific needs are, we feel that's a very important thing for us to do. So I tend to be on our team kind of more what we call the rainmaker, so to speak, and I deal a lot on the listing side. Dan deals solely 100% on the buyer side as our buyer's agent on our Bev & Co team. And what we want to talk about this morning is what is the real difference. So I'm going to let Dan kind of start and let us give him his time to explain what is a buyer's agent and what does that role really look like.
Yeah, thank you. So as a buyer's agent, I simply help people buy homes. Now, the difference is what I need to do is specialize in helping that person buy a home. Meaning, I need to understand the different areas, what real estate is like in different neighborhoods in Columbia, what they're going to bring in that area, what the comps will show that houses are selling for in that area. So my sole purpose is to really look after my buyer, okay? So I have to get them the best price. I have to get them through the disclosures. I have to understand and get them through the inspection process, which might be one of the biggest processes we go through. People think, obviously buying the house is the big one, right? But we can never underestimate getting people through the inspection process.
Absolutely.
And so it's I solely, when I look at a house and my buyer says, yep, this is the one, my sole purpose is to navigate my buyer through that process. And look out for their best fiduciary interest. And that's getting the best price, make sure we don't overpay for it, understand the comps in the area, understand what the resale should be in that area. That's another big one is like, hey, it's all fun to buy it, what's it going to be like when we sell it in a few years? So that's my process is getting them through those, and to the closing table. Okay, now a lot of people, and I want to make sure, and this is what's really nice about being on a team like that we have, I do have a lot of people who come to me to buy a house and say, okay, well, now I've got a house to sell, now what? You can't help me with that. Well, no, I won't list your house, but I work really closely with a lady that can. So it's
Yes.
it is really nice because since I'm not one of those that wears two hats of like, yeah, I'm gonna go list your house and we're gonna help you buy this house. Since I don't do that, it really is imperative, and it's a really big comfort to me to work with somebody who's been doing this 27 years, so I can in good faith go, I've got your lady, and so I can, when I'm working with those buyers, point them right back to you and hand it off, and it's worked so well for us because they feel. It's comforting for them to feel because they feel like they're with the same group and the same team, and they are, and they don't have to then feel like it's not a wonky process. They're not feeling like they have to work with two different people, and so it's all one big happy family when we can do that. So I will say that on the buying, and I love this, on the buying side, whenever I'm working with my buyer, 99.9% of the time, I'm free. I don't generally cost people money, and so many people, I've been amazed how many people when they come to do and they work with a buyer's agent, ask me how much it's going to cost them to work with me. And so again, it's 99% of the time the listing, or the seller, the seller is paying the commissions on that. So it is, the majority of the time, free to work with a buyer's agent, and it's so imperative. I tell people, whether they work with me or they work with a different buyer's agent, hopefully it's me, but it's so imperative for them to get their own agent and not just be going to open houses and not just work with the listing agent and calling them and because that person's selling the house, and then they're also trying to work with them on buying the house. So it's really imperative to get your buyer's agent and get with somebody that's going to look out for your best interest and understand what you're looking for. And again, take advantage of the time that it doesn't cost them money to use that buyer's agent the majority of the time.
So on the flip side of that, like Dan was saying, is the listing side of the transaction. And yes, a realtor can do both. I mean, I majority work with listings. I still work with buyers as we have overflow buyers coming in. And so we all do wear, different hats. But I do think it's good to specialize so that you can be an expert in the area that you represent your client in. So on the listing side of things, let's kind of dive into that. A listing agent, by design, is hired for the seller's purposes, and the seller basically is asking of the listing agent, I want you to come in and do an analysis on my home. I want you to tell me, what do I have to do to prepare my home to sell for the highest price in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of inconvenience? And what does that mean as far as, do I need to stage my home? Do I need to thin things out? Do I need to put in new flooring? Do I need to repaint? Do I have the funds to do that? Am I going to sell it as is? There's all different facets as far as the marketing strategy, and a lot of that is basically what the current situation of that seller is. And so some people are on a short time frame, so there's less time to prepare. Others have a longer time and maybe a little bit bigger financial budget where they have the time to prepare. And so that's where the strategy involved is huge on the listing side, so that you can accomplish the end goal of that particular seller. And every seller's situation is different and unique. And we always pose the question, what is more important to you from a seller perspective? Is it time, or is it money, or is it a combination of both? Because that helps us arrive at the strategy that we use to market their home. The biggest thing I think as far as a listing agent, what is necessary is to really, really know the market. Because if you haven't been inside of homes, if you haven't seen a lot of the competition, if you haven't paid good attention to the closed sales and what properties are selling for, then it's very difficult to arrive at what is the correct listing price. Because we all want to, every seller, including myself, thinks your home is better than the competition and that your home should warrant a higher price than what your neighbor sold down the street. But there's many components that goes into that, just like an appraiser does an assessment of your property once it goes under contract. We have to have the supporting documentation that backs up what the appraiser's findings are. Because if we have to come in and defend that price, it's up to the listing agent. It's not uncommon to get a call from an appraiser to say, okay, I don't know how you arrived at this price. I found these comparables. Did you find something that wasn't in the MLS or a private sale? Because I'm not supporting that price. So that's where the role of the listing agent is multifaceted. And that's where knowing the comparables, knowing the neighborhoods, knowing the correct comps to use is imperative as far as a timely sale at top dollar. And so that's where I think it's sometimes hard for a listing agent to wear all hats, because you're keeping up on that end as far as the communication on a weekly basis with that seller, and you're monitoring the market at all times as far as new listings and properties that goes under contract, because a new sold property could now all of a sudden impact a listing that you currently have on the market that's not sold yet. Maybe it went for higher, maybe it went for lower. And if things are selling around the property that you have listed and your listing isn't getting, the attention as far as the activity or a contract on it, then okay, we got to go back and monitor all of that and go back to the drawing board and figure out why is this listing not getting the attention or the showings that it needs. So the role of a listing agent is a troubleshooter, so to speak, because you're monitoring that feedback nonstop daily, and you are always looking for the best interest of your seller, whatever it is for their current situation. Now, there are times where people will call the listing agent, and a buyer, kind of Dan touched upon this, a little bit earlier. And, if you become a dual agent, if you're the listing agent and you're in a buyer's agency situation with a client and they want to buy the property that you currently have listed, that gets a little sticky because it's very, doable. However, each party wants to get the best deal. And that's where I feel like for our team, we made a conscious decision years ago that we're going to split those roles up. Because if I'm on the side of the listing side and Dan has a buyer that wants to put a property of ours under contract, he represents the buyer. Either myself or Cheryl or Marla or Kenny will represent the listing side of things, and we keep as much separation as possible so that each party can have the best experience possible. If you want to chime in on that, because I know that we've had situations like that happens more times than
we have
than what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my number one goal when that happens is I do not lose sight that the client that's my best interest is my client, okay? And I have to keep it that way. And so some people might think, well, if you've got the listing and I've got the buyer, we don't treat that any differently than if it was a realtor sitting in a different office in town somewhere. We keep that separate. We keep the dialogue separate, and we just go through the process like any other contract situation that we would. And the important thing there is that we keep it separate, and that we don't treat it any differently. And that's key. And I think that has to be, and I think that's in the best interest of both parties, the seller and the buyer. And for sure. So that's my number one thing is just because that situation is a little different there, we don't treat the situation different on how we handle the negotiations
and that's where the
process.
Beauty, I think, of our team concept comes into play, and that's how kind of Bev & Co, our team is designed, is that we have all the different team players. So Kenny primarily focuses on the listing side. He shows some buyers also, but he's our listing coordinator. Dan is solely 100% a buyer's agent. Cheryl does the marketing and online social media. Marla actually is our customer care. She works with all of our clients on the customer care aspect. She also backs Dan up on all the buyer's agency things. So it's kind of, we all do a little bit of everything, but our primary focus is kind of Kenny and Cheryl kind of deal with the listing side. Marla and Dan deal more with the buyer side. I'm kind of primarily more on the listing side. I work, buyers as well, especially some of my long-term clients. So I think that, and it's not to say that one agent can do it all, because there's many folks in the industry that does do all, wears all hats. It's just with our team, we have found that in order to give the best experience, the best buyer experience, the best seller experience, we like to divide those roles up where everybody focuses on kind of their one thing, what they master, what they are an expert in, and that way it arrives at the best experience we can possibly give.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I do want to add one thing too on the when you have a buyer's agent that I did not touch on. I was sitting there thinking about that's really important. Is I can also help navigate those folks through if they need help with a lender. I know a lot of lenders in town. and can give several names to some good lenders. And I can help with through that inspection process. If they don't know any inspectors, then we generally try to give them several names of inspectors that we know are going to do a good job. So it's not just hey, let me open up houses and show you and show you a bunch of different houses until you find the one you buy. It goes way deeper than that on what we can offer when we start specializing like we do on a team.
Well, I think whether you're a buyer or a seller, we actually have information that we can either give you online or in a handbook, so to speak, and it's a roadmap to either the selling process or the buying process. And I think the one thing that you can rest assured with working with Bev & Co., our team members, is that we're here to walk you through the process every step of the way, to inform you in advance basically what's coming down the path that you need to be aware of. And sometimes maybe someone's not ready to sell or buy right now, but we can certainly give you the guidance and a little bit of insight to prepare you so that when your time is ready, you know, to definitely let us know, and we can then pick up where, you know, whatever your time frame is. Because the one thing that I can't express enough to our clients and our friends, most of our clients become our friends, it's an extended family of our Bev & Co. team, is that the transaction, we want to be all about you. It's one of those things where it's very stressful moving. Dan, Marla, myself have all moved this year ourselves, and I moved back in July, and I'm still unboxing and packing and, you know, breaking down boxes and, you know, putting stuff out for the curb every trash day, you know, trying to get through that process. And it's very overwhelming. And especially if you're moving to a new town or you're taking a new job, and it's just like there's so many things you have to get acclimated to, that we feel like whatever we can do to ease that burden of the moving process and make it as painless as possible, we're more than happy to do. We have clients that reach out to us that say, hey, I need a new hairdresser, who's a new barber, who's a good daycare facility, who do you recommend for this or that, or lawn service or whatever. It's like our relationship, because as a client comes to us, we view it as a relationship. It's not a transaction. And we like to nurture those relationships, and anything that we can do to assist our clients along the way well after the sale, we deem it as our job duty and our responsibility, and quite frankly, we want to extend that as a friendship.
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's what makes it a very enjoyable process for everybody involved. But it's all about timing and what's the best timing for you. It doesn't matter to us if you want to, you know, buy or sell a home now, in the near future, 3 years from now, 5 years now, 10 years from now. When the time comes, we would definitely love to be your realtor and be your realtor for life.
Absolutely, especially in 2020. You know, I think the realtors, our role has even become more important this year, and because it's just been it's been a crazy year for real estate, and some of the norms have just pitched out the window, and so I think it's even more important to have experienced, dedicated listing agents and dedicated buyers agents this year, just because of how different the market's been.
Just everything in general. I don't think there's really any stability on any front when you think about everything that's been going on since January 1st rolled around this year. Every month is like a new little twist and turn. So, but
absolutely.
We're all hanging in there, and it's hard to believe we're already getting close to the holidays. So we got many months of COVID behind us, and hopefully we don't have a ton in front of us. So we'll have to see how all that goes. So, okay, well, I think that's a wrap for this morning then. So hopefully you have a better understanding of a seller's agent and a buyer's agent and how that situation works. And when you need our services, reach out to us here at Bev & Co., and we'll be more than happy to provide you with a great experience. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.